What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, 1/4 through the wire, number one Knicks fan in the world, aka Mr. Know-It-All. And in today's video, I want to talk about the truth about Kevin Durant. And I was inspired to make this video, or motivated to make this video after yesterday's interview with Draymond Green. Shout out to my Bleacher Report family. They did a really good job on Draymond's Chips series, and with the first episode, at least the first one I've seen, Kevin Durant was the guest, as we all know. I think everybody here knows that it was viral, and I'm sure everybody's watched by now. It was a good interview, a really good interview. Now, me being the basketball junkie that I am, I do wish it was a little bit longer than 24 minutes. There are some questions that I wish Draymond Green would have also asked. And there are some questions he did ask that I wish they would have gotten more in depth in. And they maybe did, but for the sake of having a 24 YouTube web series, I'm guessing in editing that it probably got chopped out and we really saw a very skinny version of it. But I still think that in those 24 minutes, there's a lot to unpack about essentially Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant is one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen touch a basketball, literally a creative player. Like, I know I'm a bit older than some of the people in my audience that watch my videos, and I'm not an old guy at all. I'm only 26 years old, but I'm just older than some of my viewers. And like, I know today's video games where you have my career now and you build players and grind them, but back in the day, 2K4, 2K5, 2K6, you would just create a player. And, you know, it was always at least one time, where you just made your player 99 and just let him be this crazy, unique, unbelievable dude. And Kevin Durant, in real life, morphed into that. This is a guy who's, 7 foot, shoot anywhere, handle the ball crazy like a guard, can dunk on you, post fades, 3-point shots, strong enough to get and one, shoots 90% from the free throw line. Just super crazy. Intelligent as it gets, because he's a purist and is a basketball junkie himself. But I think over the course of time, there's been this mistranslation about exactly who Kevin Durant is. And I think because that, we've all, as basketball fans, have fell victim of understanding him and the things that he does. Now, I've always been a Kevin Durant fan since he was the second in the country behind Greg Oden in that incredible year, when Greg Oden went to Ohio State with the Thad Matta first year at Ohio State. Kevin Durant went to Texas. Incredible year. It's when the Florida Gators won the championship. I think it was their second consecutive championship, if I'm not mistaken. But even with me being a fan of Kevin Durant, I can admit that there has been things that he's done. It's, infamously the Golden State Warrior thing, where I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It was just disappointing and, kind of upset, because it would, in my younger eyes, ruin the NBA like many of us thought. And I just thought it was a soft, weak move. But even within that, I was a fan of Kevin Durant, because what I always told people was I got over that decision a lot quicker because I fell victim to the LeBron James situation. I was so mad when LeBron went to the Miami Heat. I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I was upset. I was very adamant about rooting against the Heat in that very first year, because I just didn't want it to work. Because to me, I felt LeBron and the Miami Heat guys that went and did that, I felt that they were much more better than that, honestly. So when that happened, you fall victim to rooting against them and wanting to see them, I don't want to say fail, but just wanting to see them lose, at least that first year. And I really, really understood and grasped it and really flipped that switch in my mind after they lost to the Mavericks and LeBron James went on that podium and really said, everybody's rooting for me to fail, but they got to go back to their regular lives. And after that, I kind of saw the media, kids at school who were Chicago Bull fans, they kind of tore LeBron down and made him out to be somebody that he's never been. And that's when I was like, this is kind of getting out of hand. Like, I'm actually rooting for LeBron now, because y'all are saying things and depicting this man as something that he's not. He's always been a figure in the community, not just the community he played in, but communities around the country. For him to come where he's come from as a young black man, it was inspiring for people that come from my type of communities and our type of backgrounds. When you come from, poverty and different things in the inner city, he is a legit figure. You know what I mean? Like, clean whistle background. We never seen LeBron James in any investigations or any TMZ high speed chase or getting handcuffs around him or anything like that. Like, very, very inspiring and motivational black figure, and just athlete around the world. And a lot of the conversations around the time kind of depicted him as something else. You know what I mean? Just like it kind of made people judge him as somebody he wasn't as an entire person instead of just an athlete. You know what I mean? People didn't leave or only talk about the athlete or the basketball part of it. They started to like depict the character. And the same thing happened with Kevin Durant, where like, if it's about basketball, let's leave it about basketball. But we start to depict the character. And when I'm so glad about the Draymond Green and Kevin Durant's interview is you get character out of it. So when you watch an interview like that, you start to understand a person. And I wish more players did. I wish LeBron had, and I'm sure we're going to get a LeBron James movie that's going to take us through everything, no doubt about it. But every conversation, every interview of Kevin Durant that I've ever seen in my life has kind of been the same. And this last interview is what reminded me and made me put it all together in my mind, is that Kevin Durant is just a pure basketball player. That's all that he is. And once you understand that, as simple as it may sound, once you grasp and understand that, it makes sense why Kevin Durant will go to the Golden State Warriors. They played the best brand of basketball that we have seen in a very long time and maybe ever. So why wouldn't such a basketball purist of himself not want to go and play with a team that moves the basketball? There isn't, he can isolate, and there can be isolation plays, don't get me wrong, but their system isn't based off isolation. That isn't what they're falling back on. And if somebody's in their bag and they going for it, then sure, go get yours. But it's about passing, cutting, increasing your intelligence and IQ, and challenging you as a basketball player to be efficient. You know what I mean? To be better, to cut and not stand, and not just always bail yourself out or bail the defense out with isolation, silly ass shots. And it just challenges you to be the best version of yourself. And that's always and constantly what Kevin Durant is saying to us. I am a basketball purist who wants to continue to push myself to be the best player I can be. And for me to be that, I needed to go there. And then I needed to also leave there and start a new chapter. And that right there is very, very interesting. And it goes back to a lot of the questions Draymond asks throughout the interview, even when it doesn't have anything to do with leaving the Thunder to go to the Warriors. When he asks him about kids, you know what I mean? Draymond's like, hey, I'm 31 with 3 kids. You're 32, about to be 33, and you don't have any kids. Is that on purpose? Do you not want kids? And Kevin Durant answers and basically says in so many words, you know what I mean? It's a big commitment. And at this point in my life right now, I'm a basketball player. I'm so locked in and focused on being the greatest basketball player I can be that this is what I'm on. This is, you know what I mean? That's such a big commitment that could potentially take me away from what I'm driven to do. Even in another question, when they talk about Kevin Durant's focus or how he addresses the media, or how it switched over the years. And Kevin Durant in that one talked about, a lot of people saw me as happy-go-lucky, and then I kind of got closed off. But the only reason I got closed off, which I'm not going to say Kevin Durant is lying, but I think the other part on why he got closed off a little bit is because the media was doing a lot of bullshit things. We can admit that. But Kevin Durant is such a great guy that he didn't want to throw the media under the bus when he could have, because, again, they start talking about character like we just talked about with LeBron James. They talk about a lot of other shit that has nothing to do with the actual on the court basketball stuff. So shout out to Kevin Durant. That just shows you how good of a guy he is, because he really could have took some shots right there to the media about a lot of the bullshit that they do. But he instead talked about his focus, him focusing and being so locked in on trying to be the best player he could be and on what his role was for the Golden State Warriors. Because for the first time, he said he actually had a defined role. I knew exactly what the team needed from me. We were in a situation where we were a team that legitimately could win every single night. Every single night, we can win. And I had a defined role that I wanted to be so locked in and focused on. Nobody was taking me out of that, and we was going to come through and be that great team that we were and that we had planned to be. And I thought that that was another statement and another answer of telling what Kevin Durant is truly about. And I say all of that to say, when you start to unfold those things, it makes sense of everything. Because a lot of people talk about Kevin Durant switching teams. What's his motive? Did he leave Golden State because that's Curry's town? Did he go to Brooklyn to shun the Knicks? You know what I mean? Did he do this? Did he leave the Thunder because of Russell Westbrook? It's so many different questions and scenarios and answers people are looking for, but I think the answer is right in front of our face. Kevin Durant is pushing himself to be the best basketball player that he potentially can be. And when you're as great and as good as Kevin Durant, in order to keep yourself entertained, motivated, and inspired, you have to continue to give yourself something to chase or something to do or something to go after. And the Golden State Warriors, to me, it seems like I don't want to get anybody confused and make my perception or my perspective out to be what Kevin Durant was alluding to. This is now what I think. I personally think he's so great, like a lot of other players, and they, for some reason, they don't just plainly say it because it might sound crazy, but they have to push themselves. So OKC, it ran its course, right? It ran its course. I have a thing over here, the Golden State Warriors, where a lot of people will probably say something about, and it'll ruffle up some feathers, but it gives me a situation where I can be challenged on a day-by-day basis for my game, and it's not going to be just me going out here trying to get 35 and hopefully we win, but it's going to push me to evolve, be more efficient, get to my midi, get to my threes, my hezzy pull-up, backdooring, cutting, passing, not standing around a three-point line, you know what I mean, being motivated, wanting to wake up and come and play every day, because we do have the chance to be the greatest team ever. We can win every single night. That's an inspiration and a motivation that drives you to go and do some shit that you never did before. And it's a new challenge, a new goal, a new thing. And even at the end of the Golden State Warriors run, we did this, right? We just did that for 3 years straight. We just won 2 championships, potentially could have won 3. I need a new challenge that's going to inspire me and drive me to reach new heights and to get me refocused and remotivated. So what's that now? It's to go to Brooklyn. And now I think we can safely say that Brooklyn probably and maybe will be his last stops, just because of his career and age and how it's lining up, that at the end of the contract with Brooklyn, it probably won't be a situation where Kevin Durant is looking for a new challenge. He'll probably be at the end of his career there. But it just all makes sense. You know what I mean? And they talked about him moving in high schools, and that was the same mindset there. It was just all new challenges to push me and play. And it makes all of the sense in the world. You play locally at your local area in your local high school, you're the best player there. Now what do? We go somewhere where now I can be challenged. Why just sit here and just dominate this pool of players that I already know I'm way better than? Let's put me over here on a high school circuit or school level nationally that I can play against people all around. And that's what the Oak Hills and schools like that he went to allows you to do. When you go to a school like Oak Hill, you're not just playing local little area kids. You're actually moving and going to Oak Hill. If I'm not mistaken, it has a campus that's kind of like offsite. I think you were all boys. think it has like an all boys side, maybe all girls side. But if you ever watch, I think it's like a Quinn Cook day in a life with some maybe Ballless Life or Hoop Mixtape or something, and you'll see Quinn Cook go to class and he has this little dorm, and kind of like Mount Verde, Mount Verde, same little situation where you're kind of like pre-college, you know what I mean? But as far as basketball, reasons, you play against all of the top level talent because you get to travel there in every tournament. You know what I mean? You're playing on ESPN against other nationally top. The challenge and the competition goes up at those schools, so it makes sense. Same thing, you know, we're going to Texas. Look at the conference that they're in. That's a powerhouse conference, and even though it's a football school and football state that they alluded to, it was a challenge for him rather than going to Duke, rather than him teaming up and going with Greg Oden to Ohio State or something like that. Hey, I'm going to Texas, solid team, but it puts him in a position to where he's going to be challenged early as a freshman, and he answered the bell. In the Big 12, which was a loaded and still is a loaded conference with a powerhouse like Kansas, he was able to hold it down and be the best player in college basketball as a freshman. And I think he nationally was the player of the year. And he may have been the first freshman, could be wrong, I'm not fact checking, could be the first freshman that won National Player of the Year. I could be wrong. I'm not. We would have to double check that. Somebody fact check that right now while you're watching and let me know in the comments. But it all just makes sense. And I think that's important when trying to understand people. And even when they talked about Twitter, you know, Kevin Durant said, I'm just talking hoops. You know what I mean? They make a big deal out of everything I say or anytime I respond, but I'm not telling anybody about politics or how to live their life or anything like that. It's really just basketball. And that one hit me hard too, because he's right. It's just basketball. It's not that simple. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's very simple. And that's something I've always told people is like, the idea that Kevin Durant can't reply or respond to people on Twitter without being called sensitive is ridiculous, because it's what it's made for. There would be no reason for him to have a Twitter. You know what I mean? Because he's right. He don't go and use his social media and be like, hey, look at this new Rolls Royce I bought. It was never Kevin Durant. I've never seen him do that. I don't even think I know any car Kevin Durant has, because that's not what he uses his social media for. It's about basketball. And that's the truth about Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is that he's just a basketball purist, a basketball junkie. And I think we over psychoanalyze every single thing that he does because he is Kevin Durant. And we look for all of these answers, and, you know, we have all these questions about things that really, to me, aren't anything. And the answer is just about basketball. It's right in our face every time we have a question. It's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's him putting himself in position constantly to be challenged and be too inspired to be the best basketball player he can be. And I understand it as a person that's in a professional field and career. It's plenty of times and plenty of days where I look for challenges to keep myself going. You know what I mean? Whether it's even here on YouTube, even though I don't call myself a YouTuber, but I don't look to do and create the same type of content that everybody else do, because I need a challenge. That would be just too easy for me to take the easy way out and say, oh, that's what he did, I'm going to do it now. Same thing with the podcast, like on Through the Wire. When we have debates and conversations on things, oftentimes I challenge myself to go against the grain. So if I have three of my co-hosts saying, oh, we're all picking this guy for MVP, I'm probably going to go in a different direction, just because I want to challenge myself to go against the grain. It's a challenge. It's something that makes me now have to step my game up. I have to pick another person, and I have to make a case for him, and it challenges me. I much rather do that every single time, even to a lesser degree. I don't want to compare NBA 2K or video games to the career and life of Kevin Durant. But even then, think about a video game. When you're playing, you know, most people, I would say most people, they want a challenge. You know what I mean? You're going to play on the highest difficulty. You're not going to go and play on rookie, because then that would just be too easy, and it gets boring when it's not challenging, and you kind of lose this motivation to finish it or to play it. So you try to put yourself in position to do something that's going to allow you to be motivated and inspired to go after something, to feel accomplished with a situation, which is why 90% of video game sports content with franchises is really rebuilding. You know what I mean? Because rebuilding is a challenge that motivates and inspires you to start with something, rebuild it till it's competitive and can win a championship, and now you feel satisfied because you accomplished something. Nobody goes on NBA 2K, does a My League or My GM and picks the best team. Nobody's picking the Bucks and it's like, hey, let's see if I can win a championship with the Bucks, because there's no satisfaction or accomplishment from winning a championship with probably the highest rated team on the game. And I think essentially that's Kevin Durant for you. A basketball junkie and a basketball purist who, in every situation, in every corner throughout his career, has tried to find situations where he can continue to push, motivate, and inspire himself to undoubtedly be the best basketball version of himself. And I think we all should thank Kevin Durant for that, because his talent has been so pleasing to watch over all of the years that I've watched him. And I think right now he is the best player in the world, coming off an Achilles injury and doing everything he just did in the playoffs. It didn't go right from the playoffs to the Olympics and bring home that gold medal. Hats off to Kevin Durant. He is the best player in the world. And hopefully that interview and this video, which I think a lot of people may watch because of the title, hopefully it makes you connect the dots the same way it made me connect the dots and truthfully understand that there's reason behind the decisions and motivations besides just being a sellout. And that's the truth about Kevin Durant. As always, I'm Pee Wee the Plug. This is NBA Weekly. I'm out.